Welcome back to the Perfect Lap Podcast. I'm Mark Jager. This is Mark Kilgore. He goes by Kilgore. I go by Jager. I'm headed off to COTA with Global Time Attacks. I'm going to be at Super Lap Battle. I'm not going to be doing the most fun thing on the planet. I'm not going to be driving, but I do get to be very interactive with all of you drivers. So I'll be doing the announcing, commentary, whatever you want to call it, for GTA at COTA, Circuit of the Americas. So we'll be going out there and getting to have fun with you guys and see exactly what we got going on at this event. Again, kind of cool for us here at the Perfect Lap Podcast because we get to cover both grid life and GTA. So we get to experience all of the time attack and bring it back to you guys from our personal experiences. So that's always a really cool thing for you guys. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be having a lot of fun. So I'll kind of run you down the weekend and how I see it and how my weekend is really going to be. So I'm going to ditch out of California. I'm going to head out to Texas. And what that means is I get into Texas on Thursday. I get to sleep a little bit. And then I come in on Friday. We come in hot, right? So as some of you guys got to kind of experience last year, so Friday's practice day. What that means for me as the commentator announcer guy is I need to get all of you guys and I want to talk to every one of you. I want to understand your guys' stories. I want to know what's going on with it. I want to know, you know, what agony. I want to know that from every single one of you guys. I want to understand that you were driving your trailer to Texas from California and you hit a flock of seagulls and, you know, now you guys had all this thrash happen and, you know, 15 flat tires and, you know, all the crazy things that can happen, right?
And you were catching up on the Perfect Lap podcast episodes, of course.
Of course they were, right? So easy money to get you all the way there is to turn on episode 1, play it all the way through. You'll learn a lot as well as just gain some time attack, amazing knowledge. So at the end of the day, Friday is huge for me because that gets me out in the crowd, talking to everybody, getting everything synced up, understanding your guys' trials and tribulations, how it's all going to pan out. And, you know, get a little bit of that inside dirt. I love to understand, you know, if there's any rivalries going on. I know how most of you guys love to say how there's no rivalries. I'm here just to compete against myself. I call BS on that every single time because I'm going to tell you, there wasn't ever a time that I went to a track event that I didn't have someone else in my crosshair or thinking about, oh, do they have what it takes to best me? You know, you're always thinking about your competition at some level because at the end of the day, you want to be on the podium, even if it's, you know, you're going for the overall record. Well, you're still competing against that record, which would be a person. Yes, they might not be there in that day, but let's just say I'm gonna throw it out there. Someone like Ferris Khartoumi and Cole Powelson, right? But you have to say there's some sort of rivalry. They're one of the I don't say one, but they're some of the fastest time attack cars in the US. These are two guys that also went to World Time Attack. You have to assume at some level there is a rivalry there. Who wants to be the fastest at US car at World Time Attack? Who wants to be the fastest car at Super Lap Battle at this track, right? There's always going to be some sort of rivalry situation there, even if it's not really called a rivalry because you're not going head to head in that moment. So you're going to have these rivalries. That's going to be a thing. And I want to know, I want to understand who you're going there to win out on, who you want to face against, or whatever the case may be. And again, yes, I do understand we're always facing against ourselves. We're always seeking our own personal bests. But at the end of the day, we also have other things that we're trying to accomplish, and other people kind of get in the way of those things. Well, every single one of you guys who sign up for this event, I'm telling you right now, if you lie to me and tell me that you don't want to stand on that podium, you are absolutely insane. Like, I guarantee every single one of you want to stand on this podium at some juncture. And I'm happy about that, right? Like, we all should. But, so let's kind of dive into it a little bit more. So my Friday, as I said, I'm sitting there, I'm talking to all the drivers. I'm just going to say this right now, guys. I'm a person who loves, some barbecue brisket, some, any of those things, bribery is 100% welcome. If you happen to walk into the booth with, some brisket or something like that, maybe we'll talk about you a little bit more. I don't know. But yeah, just saying, like, the goal is to get as much information about you guys. I want to make this show absolutely as good as you can. And I'm going to throw in a little magic fairy dust of weirdness. So some of you might know Cuban, the namesake, the head honcho, the guy who, if you've listened to Time Attack, the voice of Global Time Attack in Cuban. For the first year, he will not be able to make it. Congratulations to him. He had a beautiful baby girl, and he's going to be spending time home with her. So
Good.
congratulations, and good for him. For the rest of the Time Attack community, we have to eat that loss. So we don't get to hear, his beautiful singing voice. But in lieu of that, what are we going to get? So I obviously can't sit there and be Cuban. So I had to reach out on a limb. And so you guys might know them. So you got Kevin Burke and Dustin Duresso. They actually have their own podcast called What's Up Players. So those guys are going to be there, and they're going to be co-hosting with myself. We're also going to have a pit reporter there. Wish I could remember the name off the top of my head. Sorry. But we're all going to be there. So we're going to have 4 people being able to kind of report to you guys on what's going on and give you guys the flavor of the week of what's going on in that event. So that's really exciting to me. We're going to have great options to be able to maneuver a little bit more than usual. So that is exciting. But yeah, so Saturday and Sunday, you're going to get all 3 of us in the booth, as well as a pit reporter. And again, I can't stress it enough. We're going to seek you guys out, and we're going to be seeking information for you guys, but I need you guys to also be receptive. And maybe take a listen to a couple of our podcasts about how to be professional, and so on and so forth. So you can actually stand there, talk tall, and talk about what's going on. I need you guys to talk like Kilgore here and tell me what modifications, what things you've done, how it's going to improve your time. I need all that from you guys. Again, we're trying to make the show as good as possible. Here at the Perfect Lap Podcast, we're happy to introduce Whoosh Bespoke Wheels as a sponsor of the show. Whoosh Bespoke was born out of necessity. Their race team struggled to find wheels that offer the perfect fit, strength, durability, and that big old thing, a reasonable price. The people behind Whoosh Bespoke are racers and engineers seeking engineering excellence, and they offer precision forged wheels crafted by racers for racers, with a product lineup that includes a wide range of options from monoblock to modular wheels, including 2- and 3-piece wheel designs. All engineered from the finest materials, although they do primarily use 6061 T6 forged aluminum, but they do offer things as high of quality as a magnesium alloy. So this really can work for any setup you're trying to go for. Customization is at the heart of what they do at Whoosh Bespoke. You can tailor your wheels with custom sizes, offsets, finishes, and even options like custom lettering, adding 2-tones. Their colors include both standard and premium finishes, as well as special finishes like brushed, hand polished, and even paint to sample. Every set of wheels produced exceeds the JWL standards and meets the rigorous WCEC quality standards, and they are tested by real people with real cars racing all around the world. And guess what? Me and Kilgore, we're also going to be part of that team. So we're going to be putting these things to the test. We're putting them on our cars. Kilgore's going to be repping out and going through all the Time Attack season. I'm going to be beating them up at HPDE days and just having a good time with them. So I want you to go take a look at them and make sure you give them a follow on all their socials. It's whooshautomotive.com, Whoosh Automotive on all the socials. Go check them out. We got a couple of really cool, interesting cars. We got guys coming from California. We got guys coming from all over the dang place. We have Max Effort. So Max Effort, kind of a interesting class that is full of all sorts of things. And those are basically like tube chassis, essentially cut up beyond Time Attack, if that makes any sense. Because I know Unlimited class is kind of one of those weird things where you think like that's everything you could possibly do. But max effort is a class where you can actually enter like tube chassis style builds. We've seen that in the past. And what we got people like Clay Sheeran, Mike Dussault, Justin Bayless, Kurt Decker, and Richard Luttrell. I butchered that one, and that's in a Viper. We got these really cool
Literal.
cars, right?
Literal.
That are just interesting cars, right? And the weird, interesting bit about this class is you're going to have guys that are going to be extremely fast to guys that are going to be quick, and I say that because the level of build in that class is so extreme. You got 1,400 horsepower with Clay Sheeran's car, all the way down to Justin Bayless. I think he might be making, at this juncture, honestly, he had an engine explode the other day during testing. He rebuilt his engine in like a week. I don't know. He might be pushing maybe 500 horsepower at the end of the day, in a GTI Rabbit looking type thing. So not exactly the most aerodynamic shape, more of a box versus, yeah. So just one of those things. It's going to be an interesting class to see who can come out on top, and it gives a lot of variety, a lot of openness, to be able to enter in this class. So really cool class there. Next, kind of another interesting class where anybody can enter, and this is kind of a class that was called upon because we had a lot of guys showing up, and it's called GTX. We had a class requirement essentially for guys who needed to show up who had a GT style car that didn't really have a place to go. So really, I know the car that a lot of people are going to be looking at, right, is going to be Benjamin Sloss in that Ford GT. We saw him at Grid Life at Laguna Seca, setting amazingly quick times. Quick is not the right word. Fast times there. He is projecting to go, let's just say sub 2, which is incredibly fast. So that's super awesome. But the class as a whole, these guys, we have McLaren's, Norma's, and his Ford GT, all things that can just go incredibly fast. Jensen Little is obviously a huge notable mention here, as he has done very well in this event. He did, oh man, I have to actually look because I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think he did a sub 2 last
I
year.
think so. Yeah, I think so. Jaeger, kind of while you're looking that up, one of the interesting things which I like that Global Time Attack does at least create this GTX class to allow some of these like exhibition cars, if you sort of want to call them, to kind of come here because it allows you to kind of see that benchmark as to what the time attack cars, quote, time attack cars run versus all out built race cars, right? The McLaren 720 GT3X is basically a GT3 race car that they said, oh, hey, what would happen if we didn't have to limit the car to certain regulations? What if we put a little more aero on it and we could allow it to run 700 horsepower?
Give it all the
Yeah.
beans.
Yeah, I like seeing these cars out there because you can kind of see, I mean, these cars consistently will run under the 2-minute barrier. And man, I know we'll get there, but gosh, I'm really hoping that maybe we see the 2-minute barrier broken this year by a quote street car or a quote VIN numbered car from one of the more traditional time attack classes.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head right there, right? Like when I think of, Jensen Little's car, Jensen Little's actually one of the most interesting cars in this class, in my opinion. Because Jensen Little isn't somebody who like, it's going to sound weird, but it's not like he owns a race team or doesn't, like, he does a lot of this stuff in his garage by himself. He's just I'm just going back on memory, so correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, Jensen. But I believe he's like an engineering guy who just likes engineering and wants to go fast. And so he actually competed, from what I remember, in enthusiast class in like an Evo back in the day, in like 2020. And then he picked up this Norma, and he's just been modified. He's basically treating this how most people treat that Evo, right? I'm gonna go get this Norma and I'm gonna put bigger turbos on it, and I'm gonna I'm gonna lighten it by changing a couple things that, again, that you have to have to race it but don't have to have for time attack. and then he's going to lighten this and change this and make it more, more quick on that. So it's, to me, very interesting, his approach to this Norma and how he's going to do it. And again, he did run a 158.8 last year,
Ooh,
which
man.
is incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Incredibly fast. He barely
And,
beat out Rob Bell.
Jeez, yeah. And that's just crazy though to think like, I'm gonna go buy a prototype based car and then I'm gonna modify it because I think I can make it faster. Like that's just awesome.
And that's something that I think some people, I know the time attack community would absolutely appreciate, right? It's not just I bought this and now I'm using it and I can, and like you talked about before, it is cool to see, like, to take the McLaren 720, and then take all the limiters off and see what it can do. But I think he's taking it that step above and saying, hey, this is what this car could do if we took all the restrictors off. Oh, yeah. And by the way, we're going to take the restrictors off. And I'm going to make it more aerodynamic and I'm going to give it more power with bigger turbos. He's doing all the things, again, like we would do to a Honda Civic, but to a prototype.
Yeah.
So
It's awesome.
really, really cool stuff there that I really appreciate and like to see out there. Now, I will say, for most people out there, again, we look at time attack from a VIND car perspective, a enthusiast perspective. So we're going to hit the enthusiast class as a whole. Kind of an interesting thing. Mustangs are coming in tight with the enthusiast class. We got 2 Mustangs and an S2000. So I'm interested to see.
Surely one of those is misclassed.
I think so. I think
Okay.
that GT500 is going to have to move up.
Okay.
The question is, I don't know if it has to move up to street or to limited. I don't know off the top of my head. I think
Not sure either.
street, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see.
I guess that is where the 6-cylinder kind of turbo Mustangs fit. Whereas I feel like if you get to the GT 350s or the GT 500s, you're getting bumped up to the bigger classes, to the higher classes, street, limited.
I'd have to check the rules on that to see like what. But I think you're right. I mean, from a let's be rational sense, like it would make sense for a GT 500 to like you have to be in street class at a minimum because that just would make sense to me. Trying to allow people to grow in enthusiasts and stuff like that.
Okay. Anyway, all right.
Street class as a whole is pretty huge. It's gonna be it's the usual thing, right? Street class is always a large class, large base class with a ton of cars, huge diversity. Although again, we're gonna jump back to Kilgore here. A lot of BMWs, a lot of Supras, and BMWs and Supras love COTA. There are a few Subarus with Chris Matthews and Austin Sierra. So those guys, I'm going to say, we're at a deficit in the Subaru realm coming to a track like this with this long straightaway. But I will say, they do hold their own. Thomas Smith does have the street all-wheel drive class. So there is that.
Jaeger, you pointed this out, which I had not noticed until you said it. There are 3 makes that are currently signed up for street. You're either in a Toyota, a Subaru, or a BMW, and that is it, which is wild to me.
It is,
but pretty cool.
It's wild, and I'm gonna say my little negative part here. It's a little depressing. I want to see more variety. There's absolutely cars out there, but this does go back to our previous conversations that we've had, where automakers are not making cool enough cars. Like at the end of the day, they're just not making cool enough cars for people to jump out and buy and then go run in any racing aspect. So this does kind of play into the cars that are coming out that are cool enough to do this. This is what we got. So it is kind of an interesting aspect. And it does show, people like Amir with like the NSX and stuff like that. There's very few cars from back in the day that can actually come and compete with some of these BMWs and Supras and so on and so forth. So I get why guys are looking for those things and, making choices and saying, hey, I'm not going to bring that car. I'm going to go find a different car to run. So now I will say this, the class, the creme de la creme, I'm going to say, in terms of level of competition, Limited's got everybody beat. Limited has now grown to this unfathomable amount of people that is awesome and terrible. So, and I say that because I'm going to say 2016, you could have entered a frickin' Pinto and you could have gotten on the podium. There was so few people in limited class competing that it was just almost like a jokeable class, right? Everybody either went unlimited or street, and then you
Yep.
had the rest of people kind of funneling into enthusiast.
Yep.
So there's
It's
just,
going to be a fun class. It is going to be a
yeah.
fun class to watch, man. It is wild. It is wild. Which I feel like we've talked a little bit about this, and there just seems to be, for whatever reason, um, uh, uh, people are being drawn to these classes. And I say either limited or, and that works as well. So it's limited in Global Time Attack. It would be the track mod for Grid Life, as well as the max class in SCCA. You're seeing all three of those classes in each of those organizations grow,
They're
especially
exploding.
over the last, yeah, especially
Yeah.
over the last like 2 or 3 years. And I'm not exactly sure why, other than people are, maybe it's just because people have sort of progressed there with their car, but or I don't know, but I'm excited. I mean, I think it is going to be awesome. We've got such a variety of cars, which we'll sort of run through them a little bit, but like such a variety. It's going to be really cool to see how this all shakes out.
And that's, see, that to me again, where I was a little depressed about street class, I get very excited about limited class, right? So
Oh
I
yeah,
can look at this list really quick. I see an Acura NSX, a BMW M3, a Porsche GT3, Toyota MR2, Chevy Corvette, Lotus Elise, Mitsubishi Evo, Mercedes Benz, Mazda Miata, Subaru Impreza, and a McLaren, right? There is utmost of all makes, models, kinds, all
yeah,
sorts of things that are coming in here, to give a very wide variety of just really cool cars to take a look at.
yeah,
If there's anything that you want to see, get an idea of what the times they can post, this has got it for you.
yeah.
So I love the
And
fact that Limited does that.
maybe that is why people are being drawn to it, because it is sort of a pick your track tool and modify it, and then come play in this class, right?
I think you're right. I think it's a situation where it allows enough freedom within the
Yep.
class that you can do what you need to do to make it competitive, so that all of these people are going to be competitive. And just for people to understand, so limited's times are kind of, there's pretty wide, but it's still like a 219 at the high end to the current record of a 212. So basically 220 to 212 is where you're sitting at in the limited field to be, I'm going to say, to be competitive, right? And
Sure.
yes, obviously there's people that are going to fall outside that window that aren't going to be competitive, but it kind of gives you an idea of what that competitive margin looks like in limited class. And just, I'll kind of rewind the clock a little bit here. So an enthusiast class, that window looks very, kind of tighter. It's definitely tighter, but you're talking probably a 230 to a 225, and that's your enthusiast class window. And then for street class, that window is roughly, we're going to say 220 to like a 213, 212 range in street class.
Yep.
So street class, Jackie Dean kind of ruined it for everybody with a 213, where limited class, he's kind of encroaching on that limited class. And I'll be interested. Obviously, he's one of the competitors that's listed here in limited class for this year. And obviously, his Toyota Supra ran the 213. He did run
Yep.
last year. And what did he run last year? Shoot. Do you remember?
Not off
Oh,
the top
it
of my head,
was.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm a looking. Definitely. It wasn't, I think, if I remember correctly, it wasn't something that he was like super pumped about, but he ran a 216. Okay. So he ran a 216, and I think he was very limited on, well, I know for a fact from last year on his 216, Jackie Ding has improved his aero,
Oh yeah.
has improved his power, and probably one of the most important things on this car, he has lightened it. He is, the episodes that he's put out on YouTube, chronicling what he's done, the lightning is probably one of the biggest things that he was able to do to really get some performance out of this car. So it's going to be interesting to see. Last year's winner was a Ferrari SF, which came out of nowhere. Let me just tell you,
Yeah.
everybody had no clue. He kind of really just Herrick literally jumped out of nowhere and took the win at the very last minute
Yeah.
with a brand new set of tires on there. But Brad Perkins and Gabe Zamora, George Zhao, Gary Wong, and Jackie Ding, even Kyle Fortner, they were all right there in the competition. So it'll be really interesting to see. Even Sean Farah, right? All those guys were really close in that top
Yeah.
tier. So the class itself last year went from a 214 to, let's say, a 228. That was
Okay.
the spread, and that's between 26 cars.
Wow. Interestingly enough, that a lot of those guys that you just said were there last year aren't coming back this year. Gabe
Agreed.
Zamora, Brad Perkins.
I know. I was really sad to see Brad not show up, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So based on last year's results, I mean, obviously Jackie is going to be a big swinger in that one. You've got Alan Patton, kind of interested to see in his new C7 GS that he's built. He is known as a very good driver. He is definitely going to throw it down, assuming that's a new build, assuming that build runs well. Sean Fair and his Mazda Miata, man, he always punches way above his weight. And of course, we never count out Clayton Yates, do we, Jaeger?
Yeah, we're never gonna do that again. Never gonna do that again. Clayton,
Yeah.
he always, punches above his weight as well, and he always gives us something to look at. So,
Yeah.
Wes Humphries also, he's been doing a lot of stuff to that Mercedes, so I'll be
Yep.
interested to see. He kind
Yeah.
of flew way under the radar last year, but he just did some really solid driving, and I think that's just what he's been doing. And he's also done a
Sure.
little bit of upgrades to the car as well.
Yep. Yep.
Sadly, Donald Brown, his red GC will not be making it, so he'll be,
Mm,
punting around in a I think it's just an Impreza that he's borrowing from a friend. So he's
okay.
gonna go for more of a fun time than
Okay.
a good time.
Sure.
If
Sure.
that makes
I
sense.
know I've seen some stuff from Bailey Woods' Instagram in terms of it looked like he was putting on like a wide body kit, really making some updates to that car
Okay.
to his 93 to his 99 M3, which that thing was always, I mean, you want to talk about punching above your weight. I mean, that thing was always it's light. He's got a S54 swap. I don't know what other changes he's made. So definitely interested to kind of see. You're going to have to track him down and see what he's done. Because I'll be interested to kind of see where he ends up. I just don't know. I'm just not sure about that chassis running in limited class. I just don't know if it has what it needs, even with all the changes to really. He's going to be quick. There's no doubt about it. He's going
Yeah.
to be quick. I just don't know how much he's going to be challenging the guys at the front, like your Jackie Dings and some of these other guys, and the more modern, higher horsepower cars.
Well, and I think you just hit the nail on the head there. I think one of the things that, I mean, Bailey's always ran with a lower horsepower setup, and so I know he's talked about adding power and growing that. So, like you said, it'll be interesting to see how the chassis takes that power that he's adding, how much power he's going to add, especially at a
Yep.
track like this with that long straightaway. Power is very relevant in that situation. So
Yep.
I'll be really interested to see how and what modifications he's able to do. Again, we know he's a phenomenal driver. It's just a matter of, can he get the car to kind of work with him and the modifications to all work together to give him that ability to put down that lap time. Uh, so we also have Sandgard the Viking. He showing
There
up
we
with
go.
that Subaru. I'll be interested to see. He's done a lot of work to the Subaru, although
Okay.
um, I'm 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 pulling for him still.
Still got the Marlboro livery on it.
Yes, he does.
All right.
But the sad part is, I saw an Instagram post just the other day. He was trying to get it tuned, then he needed a set of injectors, and then the sad post at the end, it sounded at the in the middle, it looked like everything was good to go. He got it tuned, he's ready to party, and then he posted one more post that said, "Who's got a leak
Oh,
down tester?"
oh no.
And so I'm like, come on. Um, So I'm hoping that he can get this Subaru out there, out to the track. He always does everything he can. He had an issue
Yeah.
last year with his splitter. It broke, and he ended up, going and making his own and doing it. He always puts his best foot forward. He's always in that. He's in that time attack realm, right? He's doing everything he can to make sure that he can compete. So I'm really pulling for him to see, hey, let's hope he gets out to the track, and let's hope he has that Subaru of his. He's got a sequential in it now. Last year, if I remember correctly, he had problems going into gears, had a lot of problems just with the gearbox in general. So that's why he went to the sequential gearbox. So I was really, really hoping to see a really good time out of him. But yeah, let's just hope that he can get that thing together and show up at the track and have a good time with it. There's a lot of guys on this list too that I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be doing research, and that's what I'm gonna be down in the pits for, to find out more and more information. I will shout out to Bill Betts. Last year, oh, he had an atrocious time at this event, just working on that
Yeah.
Evo all sorts of the hours. So I'm hoping he can have an event that's more eventful on the fun side. So
Yep.
hopefully Bill Betts gets that thing going and able to have a good time.
Yep.
But yeah,
Also
and
interested
then
also interested to see the Lotus Elise with Cal and Spence.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
See how that works out. I've sort of been following them on Instagram and YouTube. They've got a build page. I can't remember the shop that's building it. X Fast, I think it's something like that. But it's like a turbocharged 1,000 horsepower engine
Woo!
in this little car with aero wide body. And they I'll be interested to see how this plays out. And this is no, I'm not, discrediting them or anything like that. But when you have a brand new build and then you try and, you come to this competition, I think people often find out it's not quite as easy as you think it may be.
They get a
Even if you
slice of
have,
that humble pie.
yeah, even if you have a car on paper that seems like it should compete well, that's just not always the case. So I'll be interested to see sort of how some of these new builds, Callan Spence and the Lotus Elise, even Alan Patton and the Corvette, any of these sort of new builds, there's always things that have to be worked out, and then the pressure starts to build, and you don't quite get the lap time out of it that you need to, and so you think, yeah, but that's why that's then how you get the bug, right? You're like, all right, we got to go back next year. We got to get the car ready. We got to go back next year. There's always more in it. So interested to see what happens. Limited's
Yep.
going to be crazy.
So we'll go to Unlimited. Unlimited's going to have some interesting characters showing up. I'm going to start with Brad Wells. Brad Wells got that Chevy Corvette. I met him last year, and I'm not going to lie. I think from last year to this year, that poor man has had problems.
Man.
If I'm thinking of it right, Brad Wells, he left that event. He went to get like a built motor from some company. He went out to a track day. Essentially, the engine had problems from the first, crank, essentially. Then he had to like try to take it apart and try to piece it together to make it, and then that didn't work out. And I think he's on like a third motor or something like that. So I'm hoping that he can come out and just have a good time at a bare minimum and just, go out and have a fun event.
Yep.
You got Mark Luton. So Mark Luton, he's holding the Mustang flag for everybody. He's MMR. So, and those guys make a lot of really cool stuff for Mustangs in general. They make suspension parts, engine components, all sorts of cool stuff there. And he's gonna be showing up. I will say, I think realistically, in terms of unlimited class for time attack, I know he does a lot of like time trial stuff and like maybe like NASA and SCCA, and he does really, really well there. But I don't know if that car is quite built for what GTA needs in Unlimited.
Yep.
Um, but I think, the car is really cool to see out there. It sounds amazing. But he's going to go out there and have a great time, irregardless. I'll be interested to see what kind of lap times he can actually put down and compare that to other cars to kind of get an idea of where this car sits. And then we got Eric Fleming. So this car was NA last year. I don't know if it's still going to be NA. I assume it is. This car was wicked fast. It
Ooh, it was.
sounded so freaking cool. So Eric Fleming was driving his heart out. I will say, same time, he went out on practice day. I think he broke a rear diff. The team had to go back, get a new rear diff. He didn't have it easy, guys. This was not like, I took my Corvette out to the track and ran some laps and almost broke the rear wheel drive record that's, been held from Ferris since 2022. So no, that wasn't easy. He had to work at it, and he was almost there. So all the fun, all the things.
I'll definitely be interested to see what he's done to his car. If anything, like you said, last year was an NA. He had those big old stacks sticking out the
Yep.
top with the
Had
air
the filter.
filter,
Yep.
yeah, out the engine. But the biggest thing, and I think that we made some comments about this in some of our first episodes, was the aero on that car is quite understated.
Yeah.
He did a lot with that car without huge aero. So definitely be interested to kind of see what you find out, what are some of the changes he's made, and to see uh how he
What it
runs.
equals
Because
to. Yeah.
yeah, at the same time, like, and we kind of go back to like, you make changes, but that doesn't always mean that you run what you think you're going to run. Especially the faster you get. I mean, the big changes that you make when you're like in the unlimited cars, that doesn't always equate to, me adding 100 horsepower is going to mean, and some bigger tires is going to mean 3 seconds, right? 100 horsepower from 1,000 to 1,100 doesn't make that much of a difference.
Yeah.
So, it definitely be, man, I'm interested to see what happens with unlimited. I want to see some cars get close to that 2 minute barrier, and
Oh yeah. And like I said,
best of luck to all those guys.
Eric was knocking the door. I mean, yeah, we're still talking like 3.5, almost 4 seconds off, if I remember correct. I think he did like no, now I have to look. Now I
I think it
gotta
was a
look. It's right
204 or
here.
something. Yeah.
He did a
202. Wow.
203.853.
Okay.
And just so everyone
Gosh.
understands, Ferris Khartoumi's record of unlimited rear wheel drive is a 203.850. Zero. So that's such a, you can't even, like, realistically, the quantification of that 0.003 is so wild that yeah, unbelievably, a thousandth of a second. So he was right there. So any modifications that he did, even as a driver, to increase that time, I think he's right there. Now I say that, so the sad part, this does make me sad. No life. So no Cole Powelson. Cole Powelson is a huge staple of Time Attack in North America. So it's always a sad day when those guys are not at a premier Time Attack event. So I'm sad that they will not be there. But what that does offer is, so even though Ferris Khartoumi is currently not on this list, we do know that he plans to show up with his Kevlar car that he got back from Sydney, Australia. And when he set that record of 203.850, he technically had the overall record at that time. When he did that, that was not in a situation that car was running perfectly. Car was down on power. He had issues with the front splitter, just overall issues with the car, not really allowing him to get clean laps and not allowing him to put down multiple laps. He's coming with a car that he believes is going to be exponentially better than that 203 lap time. So I'll be very, very interested. Now, and keep in mind, guys, this isn't even technically what is it, the Rev 3 car? This is still Rev 2.5.
Yeah.
So this is the Kevlar car. This isn't the new version that he's been working on. He's still working on that one. We're going to get the Kevlar car because he wants to see what this car can lay down in its current configuration in good working order. And I'm curious if he can break us into that sub 2 minute barrier for the very first time in GTA history. But I'll be interested. I'll be there. I'll be the first one to tell you guys, because I'll be screaming from the mountaintops and you'll be hearing me all over the place. But
That's right.
That's
You could definitely expect me and Jaeger to be trying to post on social media as best we can in between breaks and doing all that kind of stuff, trying to keep you guys updated as to what's going on with grid life, how my weekend's progressing, what's going on at Super Lap Battle, who's breaking records, who's in the lead with Jaeger. He's going to keep you guys updated with all that as well.
All right, guys. Hopefully you're listening to this on your way to COTA or on your way to CMP. And that way you can understand exactly what's going on with the podcast and everything that's been going on. All right, Kilgore, close us out, shut us down, and let's let the audience get back to their life.
All right, guys, we're going to be posting on Instagram, so you guys can definitely check us out there. Keep up with what's going on over the weekend. If you're at CMP and you want to know what's going on at Super Lap Battle, we'll keep you updated, or vice versa. So hit us up on Instagram. We also have a website. You guys can check that out. If you want to email the show, if you want to email us or get in touch with us, obviously you can, DM us on Instagram or anything like that. You can also email the show at maximumattack@perfectlappodcast.com. You can obviously catch the show on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, as well as on YouTube. So, as always, thanks for listening. All you time attackers out there, go fast, take chances. We'll see you in the next one.